Hello, everyone. Welcome to Let's Go Up Podcast Edition,
where we explore the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven.
We're your hosts. I'm Dean.
And I'm Karitas.
And Karitas, today, the title of our podcast is Atmosphere Shifters.
Atmosphere shifters.
Yes.
Yes.
It's going to be so much fun. We're going to talk about shifting the atmosphere around us. We're going to explore that.
Yeah, it's a word we're hearing around a lot.
Yeah.
Atmosphere shifting, carrying the atmosphere. Okay, but let's
dive in.
Let's dive into that.
Let's take a Let's Go Up look at it.
Yeah.
Always something new there.
All right, before we get started, Dean, super exciting. We have a website.
Do we ever have a website?
Letsgoup.us.
Because we're in this together?
Yes, because we're in this together. And it's a mystery. You never know when you go on if there's going to be some new blog article or...
Have you written anything this week?
What have I done this week?
What have I done? There's always something new because every week there's a new podcast.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
You can find the podcast link there, audio version, video version, plus lots of other fun stuff.
All right.
And it always helps if you like, subscribe, share, and if you want to be notified,
Ding, ding.
you could always hit the notification bell. There we go.
Yeah.
Got that out of the way.
Got it out of the way.
So fast this time.
So we're winding down the summer, Dean.
We are.
How are you doing with that? You know, because you work outdoors.
Yes.
Winter is coming. Is that too soon to say that? Is that just cruel?
That's cruel.
It's just too soon.
It's okay. Yes, we are winding down the summer. I have a question for you. You do a lot of camping, so camping stories.
Okay, let me tell you a funny story. We have some friends who went camping this summer for the first time.
First time.
Okay, so newbie campers.
Right?
Newbies to BC as well, so the environment and stuff. So it was a big, exciting trip for them. And they caught some crayfish and ate them. You know what those are? They're like little, they almost look like miniature lobster.
Yep.
But they do not taste like lobster. They look like they would taste like river soot or something. I don't know. But they were with a group of people who apparently knew how to camp. So while they were camping, there was a bear that came into their campsite, a black bear. And it was just munching on some berries, you know, probably got full eating berries at your farm. And then
decided to go on up the hill.
You guys have a variety of berries.
We do.
At your farm. But anyways, this bear eating the wild berries, minding his own business, not really even close to them. One of the guys at the campsite said, "It's all right. I've got bear mace.
I'll take care of this.
I'll take care of this."
For everybody.
So what he does is he just starts spraying the air all around the campsite with the bear mace.
What?
He empties the can.
No way.
So the whole night, she's like, "Yeah, my eyes were kind of burning and everything we ate, like our tongue was burning." And I'm like, yeah, that's because bear mace isn't meant to be just this repellent air spray.
We're not talking about like an air freshener in a bathroom here.
Yeah, and even those are questionable, okay? Do they really work? Add more smells to the smell, really.
That's right.
Right? So it's not helping. But this bear mace, I'm like, the bear has to be basically attacking you directly up. It's meant to blind them for a temporary amount of time. Right in the eyes. I'm pretty sure it says that right on the canister of distance they need to be before you actually squirt it. But anyhow, so I told her, if you ever camp with this guy again, don't let him aerosol the campsite.
With mace.
The bear just kept eating the berries. It didn't even care. But yeah, so my parents used to give Nathan and I a canister of bear mace when we were younger, if we ever went out in the woods. But I told him one day, I'm like, you know, we've had this same canister of bear mace my whole childhood. This is the exact same one.
Do they expire?
Yeah, like...
Is it like a fire extinguisher?
Right. Do they just live forever? Are they immortal? So anyways, he's like, I don't know, let's check. So he takes the safety off and goes to squirt it. And instead of spraying out, it just oozes down the bottle. It doesn't work anymore. So unless you like took the oozing liquid and rubbed it in the bear's eyes with your thumbs, maybe.
Come here, bear.
So he rinsed his hands in the river. Yeah, so later in the night, he rubs his eye. Oh man, the agony. It was bad.
So bad. Oh, that stuff is so powerful. Yeah.
One time I was driving and we had just been on a hike and all of our stuff was in the back. And at some point, Blake, our son, had gotten into the back seat and gotten the canister. It was at the bottom of a backpack in a safety thing. And anyways, so he had it and we didn't know he had the bear mace. He's sneaky, right?
Oh, yeah.
And fast. And he'll wait for that one micro moment. Anyways, so he had this bear mace. I just heard this like clicking, and I look back and he's got the safety off and he's like clicking the nozzle just lightly. I'm like, oh my goodness. So I grab it out of his hand. It just would have been in the enclosed vehicle. Can't even imagine. That was close.
Yeah.
Angels were probably like holding their finger underneath that lever.
Yeah.
Just like, come on, catch on here. We can only do this so long.
Speaking of angels, because we just talked about angels last week.
Yeah.
Sure that there was an angel there.
Yeah, no doubt.
We have a lot of bears out at the farm because we grow blueberries.
You should try spraying all around your field, mace. We don't spray chemicals.
We're organic.
We're organic. We just spray bear mace.
Please wash before you eat.
If you like spicy blueberries, we're the farm for you.
There's a certain mama bear that has 2 cubs, and they come down off the mountain because we're right by the mountain. So they get a discount.
Yeah.
We let them have them for free.
The good neighbor discount. Fun times. Yeah. You ever have any close encounters?
I've had lots of encounters with animals in the wild.
Yeah.
I do remember going for a run around the inlet one time and coming pretty much face to face with a bear. I just backed off real slow.
And you spoke life into him? Like,
yes.
You were meant to be my friend.
I changed the atmosphere is what I did.
Atmosphere. You were not created to eat me.
One thing I love about camping and being outdoors, being outside far away from a city at night. And you can look up in the sky and the billions of stars.
Yeah, because you can actually see the Milky Way.
And you can see little satellites moving around and the odd shooting star. Such a grand expanse. Trillions, quadrillions, how many we don't know. We're meant to explore.
Yeah, we are. We've had a few fun nighttime experiences this summer. We've had some aurora borealis. You know, Saskatchewan brags about being the land of the living skies. Yeah, and what are we, beautiful British Columbia? We just have to rub it in. Like, we're beautiful. It's almost like John, you know, just like, I'm the loved one.
Yes. Anyhow, that was my attempt at a segue.
And I just derailed it.
I was trying to segue to atmosphere, sky, atmosphere.
Well, that's a good segue. Okay, I'm on track now. I'm on track.
You're on track.
Okay, yeah, the night sky, the atmosphere. Is that where you're going?
That's where I was going.
I'm feeling, you're like, Karitas, I'm throwing you a bone here.
That's right.
And the stars and the atmosphere. Yeah.
Good, we're there.
We're there.
We made it.
We're talking about atmosphere.
We're exploring the mysteries.
Yeah.
Of shifting atmospheres.
Maybe we'll even open our mystery box today. We'll see how mysterious it gets.
I wonder if we open the mystery box, if we'll get more mystery.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Nice. Yeah. So, Karitas, there's a lot of people out there talking about shifting the atmosphere. You carry the atmosphere of heaven wherever you go. Release the atmosphere.
Spray it all around.
I wonder sometimes how effective that is.
Yeah, like, do we automatically just carry the atmosphere of heaven? What does that even mean? And what does that look like? You know, if you start having a relationship with the Lord, you're born again or you're baptized or whatever, at what point are you carrying the atmosphere of heaven? Or do you have to learn? Or do you have to experience?
All good questions.
All good questions to ponder.
That's what we do here.
We give you things that you can lie awake at night, getting terrible sleep listening to this podcast.
I found a little definition. I don't know where it came from. It was in one of those little square Google boxes.
Okay, so Google.
What does it mean to shift the atmosphere? It is the process of displacing the resident spiritual ambience in a space or region with a new spiritual aura or reality.
Displacing the resident.
Displacing the resident spiritual ambience.
Okay.
With a new one. Kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I feel what they're putting down there. With a new spiritual aura or reality.
Yes.
What does aura mean? Just kind of like vibe, maybe?
Yeah, vibe.
Yeah.
There was a bit of further explanation. In other words, there is a resident spiritual climate in a space which is dictated by the people who are there, the forces at work in the region, the history of the space, or the activities taking place at that time. When someone comes into the space carrying a new atmosphere that is contagious and more powerful than the resident one, the spiritual atmosphere can be displaced by a new atmosphere. Sometimes the change is welcome, and sometimes there is a clash of the two atmospheres, with a stronger one winning out.
Ooh, Interesting.
Very interesting.
That reminds me of when Jesus told his disciples, like when you go into a household, greet it, you can release your peace on it. Okay, Matthew 10.
Verse 11. Whatever village or town you enter, search for a godly man who will let you into his home until you leave for the next town. Once you enter a house, speak to the family there and say, God's blessing of peace be upon this house. If those living there welcome you, let your peace come upon the house. But if you are rejected, the blessing of peace will come back to you. Then when you leave the house or town, shake the dust off your feet. That escalated quickly. All right, we're leaving here. So you're going to shift the atmosphere.
Yeah, let your peace come upon it. You've got this ability to change the atmosphere in the place.
Yep.
Or not.
Or not.
If it's receptive, very interesting. Kind of goes along with your Google definition there. If someone comes into the space carrying a new atmosphere.
You definitely don't want to force an atmosphere on a situation, right? Because there can be different reactions to it. I mean, sometimes it's a good reaction, sometimes it's not. And it's not that the bad reaction is a bad reaction in some cases, but if it produces hostility, take your peace back.
Yeah.
Your peace is too important. But I'm thinking about Jesus when he stepped off the boat and he went up into the hills and the guy met him from the tomb. He was carrying such an atmosphere that it provoked this reaction, this demonic reaction. He shifted the atmosphere of the entire county. So sometimes a negative reaction to an atmosphere isn't always bad, but when it's producing religious hostility. And then the people that came out afterwards, they noticed that everything was different. Atmospheres, shifting them, it can have all kinds of consequences.
Yeah, so Jesus, even in those situations, he didn't seem to be trying to change the atmosphere. He just entered these areas and walked into these rooms and slept in these boats and did whatever, and the atmosphere would change. And he'd speak, like with the storm, right?
He is doing exactly what he said here. He's releasing the peace with a verbal command. A storm changes into a calm situation. I'm actually amazed when I read about Jesus that wherever he went, he did shift the atmosphere. He caused reactions everywhere he went, but there's no record of him trying. If you're going around trying to shift atmospheres, that might be a bit of a red flag. We just have to carry what we carry, and it will happen.
Yeah, if he's in us and we're one with him, we can give people an encounter with Jesus just by being in the same room, without having to feel like we need to preach at them or evangelize at them. Just us being there is giving them an encounter with him. If we're one with him and we're seated with him and he's in us and we're in him, right? Philip said, if you just show us the Father, then we'll believe. And he said, don't you realize yet? If you've seen me, you've seen the Father. You've been in his presence just by being in my presence, because he's in me and I'm in him. And then Jesus looks at us and says, Dean, I'm in you and you're in me. So we're bringing him and everything he carries into these places.
I'm just looking through a list of scriptural examples.
We love our scriptural examples.
We're all about the Bible here, Karitas. How about David when he played his harp in front of King Saul? Saul was in a bad place, had a really bad atmosphere around him.
Bad mood on steroids.
Yes.
Yeah.
David played his harp, and the whole atmosphere shifted. Atmosphere can be shifted with lots of different things. It can be shifted with music, played from a heart that carries presence. It can be shifted, I think, through praise, worship.
Yeah, definitely.
I've had a lot of personal experiences with atmosphere shifting in an environment of worship, because I've been around worship so much my life.
Paul and Silas.
In prison.
Worshiping and praising after being stripped and beaten and shackled by their ankles, super uncomfortable position. And instead of moaning and complaining and, praying for themselves or whatever, they just were worshiped.
Yeah.
And everyone else listened. And then some crazy stuff happened.
Yep. Bam.
Yeah.
Yeah. The whole thing shook and all the chains came off. The whole atmosphere shifted in the whole city, starting with the jailer.
Yeah, that's right. They weren't sitting there with this motive okay, if we worship and pray, then the people will listen to us, and then they'll listen to the words and know about Jesus.
If we worship and praise, the atmosphere will shift.
Yeah, exactly. The motive wasn't to do anything but glorify him.
That's right.
They were just so consumed by him and in love with him that even in that position, it didn't change their heart posture and their goal in life. Mm-hmm. And yet everything changed without them trying to make it change. Ooh, okay, something I thought about this week. So I went to the zoo and we were on the other side of the zoo and the lion started to roar, just that deep kind of low roar. And you could hear it. One of the workers said that in the savannah, you can hear it for, I think, 8 kilometers. And I was thinking like, man, talk about an atmosphere shifter. You're lying there in your tent at night, all peaceful, listening to the crickets, but you hear that roar in the distance. That does sound like it's right beside you. Just immediately changes the whole atmosphere. And he's the Lion of Judah. That roar changes the atmosphere of the entire savannah plain for kilometers and kilometers.
That's called a frequency. So frequencies can shift atmospheres.
Yes.
Like the sound of the rushing mighty wind shifted the whole atmosphere of Jerusalem with a frequency. Maybe what frequency we carry shifts atmosphere. Is that a good thing to say?
That's a great thing to say.
I don't know why I just said that.
You said it because the mystery box is open.
Well, yeah, you're right. Mystery is coming out and hitting me. I think what we carry more than anything, the peace that we carry is a frequency. The joy that we carry is a frequency. Those things come off us because they're frequencies and they hit atmosphere and they dissolve things. We don't really have to try. If you're a light, if you've got photons on you, like you always do,
blinding,
and you walk around and you're shining, you're going to displace darkness because you're bringing a different atmosphere.
Yeah. And trying actually has the opposite effect.
Yes, it does.
It kind of reminds me of, say you sell things, multi-level marketing.
There you go.
If you have an underlying motive to turn your friends into, or people around you into customers, they know it right away.
Oh, they can pick up on it a mile away.
Yeah, they know. And so you'll start getting a lot of, no, I'm busy to invites, right? And I think it's the same with a Christian who has the motive to change their friends maybe.
Right.
It can be smelled a mile away. The motive really does affect people, right? And I'm sure we've all experienced this as we learn and grow, and the Lord just patiently watches us. As you start walking in deeper relationship with him, when you start loving people like he loves them, the motive goes away, and then they pick up on that, and their guard goes down because they notice every time I'm with you, all you want to do is love me with no strings attached.
People don't want to be your project. And when they sense that you're making them into your project, they'll go the other direction.
Yeah.
They'll start finding excuses to not spend time with you.
Yeah.
You'll have to work a lot harder. I think it's really important when it comes to shifting atmosphere that it has to be done without any agenda. I don't know any other way to say that, but you can't try to shift an atmosphere. You have to do it with what you carry. That has to be something that's almost unnoticed. In fact, I think the greatest compliment would be if you walked into a place and the entire atmosphere was shifted and nobody even knew where it came from. They just sensed that something was different. You're not pointing a spotlight at yourself here. People don't even need to know where it came from.
Eventually they catch on. Man, every time Dean walks into this room, it took us a while to realize he was the common denominator.
Common denominator.
Yeah. Everyone's experienced the opposite, where a particular person can walk in the room and it gets tense.
Yes.
Without even a word being said. And people do pick up on who's causing that shift. Maybe it takes people a bit longer to see who's causing the shift to peace or to light, but they do notice and pick up on it. A cool example of that is Nathan at work in this construction sites with these hard guys and lots of language and coarse, crude stuff and anti-God kind of things. And yet he just consistently lives in the light and just loves his relationship with the Lord. And he reads his Bible when he wants. He doesn't like preach at people, but people come to him and they feel safe with him and they open up. And it always like surprises him who does. Like it's always the last person that he thought would. Usually the biggest mocker or the hardest heart. All he's done is shift the atmosphere without trying, right? Just by living with him and encountering the Lord and loving it and enjoying it. It's like this aroma almost that they smell. People open up and they always say, I don't even know why I'm telling you this. I haven't told anyone this. That's happened so many times.
So Karitas, how would you cultivate a personal environment of an atmosphere that you could carry and release?
seems like whatever atmosphere we spend the most time in is what we're going to be carrying.
Right. That's a very good point. So I've heard a lot of people talking lately about the whole shifting the atmosphere thing. They'll say things like, you carry the atmosphere of heaven, release it on a situation and that kind of thing, but you might not be carrying the atmosphere of heaven if you haven't been spending time in heaven. Where you spend your time, where you hang out, you're going to pick up that atmosphere. So if you're spending a lot of your thought times in places where there's fear, then instead of carrying peace, you're going to be carrying fear.
You might have the language of peace, but are you carrying the peace as well?
Yeah, you might be able to say, I speak peace in Jesus' name, but in your heart, you're full of turmoil. And so you're not releasing the same thing that you're saying. So when you speak the language, what comes behind it has to match.
Yeah, and Jesus gave us a glimpse when he went up on that mountaintop with those two fellas. He gave us a little glimpse of the interaction with heaven when he prayed. And then he was able to just come off those mountains and be in these situations and continuously release peace, compassion, love on people without trying. It was just flowing from him. So much so that someone would just touch a piece of his garment and they would be healed. And we see where he spent a lot of his free time.
Yes. If you want to develop and cultivate an atmosphere that you can carry and release into places that you just carry around with you wherever you go, then you have to spend time in that place. And so I'm saying, if you want to be an atmosphere releaser for heaven or for the kingdom of heaven, you will need to spend time in heavenly places. Deliberately pick up the vibe of that atmosphere. And then you can carry it. I think atmosphere shifters, the ones that I know who are effective, they have a rich history with the presence of God. They understand the presence. They love the presence. There's nowhere they would rather be.
They're the Mary, discovered the one thing.
Yeah.
Like all that other stuff's good, but she's discovered the one thing that truly matters.
That's where you pick up the atmosphere of heaven, sitting there at his feet, being in heavenly places, in encounter with the presence of God over a lifetime. And I'm not saying that somebody new at this can't do the same thing, but the consistency and the not having to try comes from a rich history of being in God's presence, spending time there, and desiring nothing else. Those are the kind of people, when you're around them, there is this fragrance. They're not trying. It's just there. It's such a natural thing.
Yeah. You can walk into a church building filled with people who are hungry for the Lord, desiring him more than anything else in their life, and you can feel the atmosphere is different. I think a lot of us have experienced that. It's like, what is this? Tangibly different. It's the atmosphere. So as a corporate body even, think of the mega atmosphere shift together.
Yes. Groups of people who desire to be in the presence of God and in worship can shift atmospheres over entire cities.
Yeah.
Just by loving.
Well, you had that sense once. You had shared a story about when you were driving down through the States and you and your wife drove through a town and you could feel the atmosphere was different there.
Yep.
There's something about that town.
Yep.
And the people here. We got to come back here one day. Have you gone back?
No, I haven't.
It's on your bucket list.
Yeah.
The atmosphere bucket list.
Places to go. Yes, we stayed in that town overnight, and all night long I felt the atmosphere very charged with presence, and there was an excitement in the spirit over that town. I kept having this little gospel song.
Are you going to sing for us, Dean? It's going to happen. Dun, 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 dun.
I'm trying to remember the song. If I could remember the song, I could sing it for you, but I can't even remember it.
No.
Something about, we feel your presence in this place, but that's not right.
Oh, man, our one chance.
Came and it went so quickly.
Yeah, we've already used the womp womp button because this would be the perfect opportunity, though.
I feel like lots of things can be released as atmosphere. I was thinking about this during the week. Every type of spiritual fruit could be released as atmosphere. Love could be released as atmosphere. Joy, peace, gentleness, patience, kindness, all of those things.
So it's like when Jesus had told his disciples, you can go and release your peace on this place.
Yes.
You can release your joy on this place and your patience on this place. And
that's right. Anything that can be picked can be released
yeah.
as an atmosphere.
are we carrying the atmosphere of heaven?
The atmosphere of heaven is the atmosphere of glory. Glory light is to heaven what air is to the earth.
Wow, yeah.
Right? The glory of God is an atmosphere in heaven. Carrying the atmosphere of heaven quite literally means carrying the glory of God or the presence of God. You're not going to get that by just saying, I carry the atmosphere of heaven. I release it wherever I go. No, you're going to actually have to spend time in it. It will soak into you and it'll become part of you.
Yeah, and it will be like this aroma coming off of you that people can smell, and some will love it.
Yeah.
Some won't.
You're right.
But there's going to be people that love the aroma.
There are going to be people that love it, and there will also be people who will react. I'm sure you've had that.
Like if you stink to some people, it's okay because it smells like flowers to other people. So
that's right.
It's the same aroma. It's just picked up differently. Isn't that interesting?
Yes.
He says to some, it's this horrible stench, and to others, it's this beautiful delight to the snorters. That's a long-going joke because our daughter used to think nostrils were snorters.
Snorters, yes.
When she was little.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
I do think the moment you shift into agenda mode, your atmosphere shifting loses its oomph. It's gone. Actually, it leaves. You're no longer shifting atmosphere. Now you're pushing something on somebody.
Well, and the root of it is if we're ever doing anything outside of love, like if the core motive isn't love, which is the core motive of everything in heaven, God is love. If you're knocking door to door and handing out pamphlets, that's great. But is the motive that you love these people so much, the genuine love? Because people will sense right away that this is coming from a duty versus a passion.
I'm just thinking of something. A motive to try to evangelize somebody is not necessarily a motive that comes from love, even though it's a noble thing to try to do. To try to win somebody to Jesus or to try to preach something at somebody in some way, even if you think that your motivation is love or the love of God over that person, to see them come to light in some way, the motivation of love is very much different than that. Love is so uncontrolling. The love of God over our planet and over us as humans was so hands-off that he allowed us to mess up our entire world without interfering. He watched it happen. Oftentimes we try to control people into things. In doing so, we think that we're trying to shift atmosphere on their behalf, but that's not coming from the motivation of love. That's actually coming from a different motivation. Motivations and agendas are extremely subtle. There is a verse somewhere that says we don't even know what the motivations of our own heart are. We need to be real careful that we're not pushing something out of a thought that it's out of love, but yet it's out of context with the way that heaven would act and speak. It's not consistent, maybe with the way that Jesus would speak.
1 Corinthians 13 talks about love. It's a safe place of shelter. It takes no account of suffered wrong. You're very aware of how the person is feeling that you're around too. If you're spending your time in heaven, I'm just thinking out loud here, okay? So you're spending your time in his presence, in heaven. It's a priority. It's what you're seeking. You're seeking first his kingdom, his righteousness, his glory. You start to walk like they walk and smell like heaven smells and release that here. Then your environment that you're spending time in starts to pick up on those things. And that's why sometimes when you walk into someone's house, you instantly feel peace.
Yeah.
Or a sense of rest. For some reason, there's just this comfort there.
Yeah.
And you don't look very far and you realize these people spend time in the presence.
Yeah.
And they love it and they love him and they sit at his feet with no agenda but to know him. And it transfers it even into their environment when they're not even in the environment anymore.
Yeah. There's one thing I wanted to talk about yet that I find so interesting and exciting. Did I look excited when I said
You did. Your eyebrows went up and your voice changed slightly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Slightly.
Yeah. You didn't say, and I get very excited about it.
Okay, good. All right.
You're like getting a complex now.
I do have a complex over how excited I might seem to be. Every person, the unique combination of myself and Christ in me or myself in Christ, the unique combination of Karitas in Christ and Christ in you creates a unique atmosphere. And we're the only one that can create that and bring that to our world. What I wanted to talk about for a few minutes is the mystery of Christ in each one of us and how it creates such unique expressions in our world. Every single person who is in Christ is an entirely unique expression of atmosphere. Mysterious.
Yeah, I love that. You know, I've heard it said, well, you can read the Bible and see these scriptures like denying yourself and being born into his likeness. And so we don't matter, like our individuality is gone.
Right.
But that's not what he's saying here, because he loves your individuality. That's why he's made us so different. Mm-hmm. But we can be one in him and yet be expressing him in very different ways, uniquely, that speak in different ways to different people.
Yes.
And that's where comparing yourself to other people, just don't go there.
No.
Because they're doing their thing in the Lord. You do your thing in the Lord with him. Mm-hmm. It matters, right?
Yeah, each one of us creates an entirely unique combination and perspective and atmosphere with the coupling of ourself and Christ. Mm-hmm. And I think it's crazy how God has created each one of us different. He did that for a reason, because in the grand scheme of eternity and infinity, each one of us will fit an entirely unique place and carry something unique to our universe, to the dimensions that we someday infiltrate and influence. Wow. There's so many different variations of the character of God in that.
Yeah, appreciating the beauty in the variations. It kind of reminds me, slightly different context, but it was about comparing. Peter is at the end of John. He heard what Jesus said about John. He's like, well, what about him? And Jesus is like, if I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? Mm-hmm. You must follow me. He's comparing. He's looking at another guy. Same with us, with the atmosphere we carry and our life united with Jesus. But mine doesn't look like Dean's. What is that to you, what me and Dean look like together? Mm-hmm. You follow me.
Yeah.
You be one with me. And let's see what that looks like.
Karitas, that was a mic drop.
Kapow.
Kapow. Down goes the mic.
Mm-hmm. Almost changed the atmosphere in here when it hit the ground.
Almost. That's all it takes to change the atmosphere when you're carrying the atmosphere of heaven.
I think Jesus is excited about what it looks like for us individually with him.
Yeah.
He's not trying to compare us together.
Evidently, if we knew the entirely unique creation that we are and the entirely unique combination of us and Christ that is created by the coupling of those two things, we would never compare ourselves to another person again.
Yeah.
That unique combination in every one of us creates a labyrinth of unique expressions of atmosphere. When you take Christ in myself, Christ in you who are listening, and when each one of us spends time in the presence, it brings out a different color, a different texture, different expression, even an atmosphere of peace. Everybody's peace that they carry is slightly different. It has a slightly different feel to it. And when you're around a certain person for a period of time, you get used to their aura. You get used to what they carry. Each one of us carries it differently.
Yeah.
And we're created that way. Mm-hmm. We're created to carry this unique expression. Each one of us are.
Yeah.
God intended for our world to be adjusted and impacted by each one of us carrying it differently.
Yeah. This is probably why I have a hard time picking favorites of things, like picking a favorite color. Because it's like they're all unique and beautiful, right? In different ways. And it'd be ridiculous if yellow just always wanted to be red, because yellow carries its own unique, beautiful expression in this world. And it's still a color. We're still one with Christ, even though we're carrying a different, unique expression of him.
How many different colors are on a Mac screen? Do they say billions of colors or millions? I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't even know. Bigger than that mega 30 box of crayons.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's colors we don't even know exist yet.
That's very true.
As people who have seen glimpses of heaven have seen colors that they can't even describe because their brain here can't even remember it anymore.
Maybe what we're doing today is inviting our listeners to explore the unique expression of the coupling of yourself and Christ. Mm-hmm. Don't try to compare yourself to anybody else, because what you carry is entirely unique and entirely beautiful in its own way.
Yeah, a never before seen new combo.
That's right. Never before seen. It's unique enough that for eternity and infinity, there will never be another clone of that.
Yeah.
Entirely stand out. Our God is a God of such infinite variety. Carry what you carry with no agenda. Spend time in the presence. Spend time in heaven. Develop a history sitting at Jesus' feet. Mm-hmm. That's where you will develop your personal atmosphere, your personal aura, and that's where you'll start to emit that beautiful fragrance, that unique expression that God has made you into, and then just carry it wherever you go. You don't have to think about releasing it. Mm-hmm. Just be yourself.
I think you'll be unaware that it's even happening.
That's right.
If someone brings it up, oh, mind wasn't even on that.
Yeah.
And going back to Mary again, Mary's on my mind. After sitting at Jesus's feet, spending that time in his presence, just focused on the one thing, soaking him all in. Mm-hmm. Pretty sure from that point on, wherever she went, she was changing the atmosphere. It was with her. Was she the one that poured the perfume all over him too? So it's just like walking into that room, some people offended by the behaviors and the atmosphere and the changes she was bringing in, and others were like, wow.
That's actually a really good point that you make, being that she was the one at Jesus' feet and being that she was the same one who released that fragrance. The one thing that she found allowed her to be in a place where she changed atmosphere. And you're right, that fragrance, it brought all kinds of different responses.
And it lingered, because that was a lot of perfume, right?
Yeah.
Like a year's worth of money to buy this huge thing, poured it on him. He would still be smelling like it hanging on that cross. So now you've got these guards smelling it. You've got these guys on the cross beside him smelling it. Mm-hmm. The same aroma, the same fragrance, metaphorically, what she put on him is what we'll be carrying.
Yes. I've never really thought of putting those two stories together, but the way that one follows the other is so descriptive of what we're talking about, right? Sitting there, soaking it all up. In the second case, releasing it.
Yeah, because Jesus, he didn't just teach in parables, he also lived in parables. Things would happen, those actions and the perfume. There's a lot being spoken there, like about how far-reaching that fragrance was. How many people did that affect? We don't get to witness a lot of what actually happens behind the scenes. When Jesus said to Matthew, "Follow me," he just walks by his booth. I was thinking, is that the atmosphere Jesus was carrying? Because he just left everything and followed him. He just immediately left his booth. Jesus didn't try to convince him. He didn't evangelize at him. He didn't explain to him why he should follow him and the perks. He just walked by and said, "Follow me." Why would he just leave everything?
Because there was something there.
Yeah.
Something walked by that he felt.
Yeah.
He didn't just see a person. He felt an atmosphere.
There would have to be a major atmosphere shift for a guy like that in that position to just drop everything. And Jesus just effortlessly just strolling by. I think a lot of the times we're waiting for a move of God.
Right.
If the kingdom's flowing through us because we're spending time, we're the move of God. We're walking, releasing it.
I think we want to just encourage people today. Carry what you carry well. Go to the source. Keep it simple.
Yeah, relax. Deep breath.
That's right. Don't try. Don't bring agenda. Just be the combination of you and Christ, that unique combination that nobody else will ever be.
Just be.
Yeah, just be.
It's the just be.
And let that atmosphere trail behind you like a scent would trail behind a perfume.
Yes.
All right, Karitas, that's it.
So fun, Dean.
So fun.
Always good.
Yes.
Wow, very encouraging and something definitely worth exploring more.
Yes. So I hope you've enjoyed this conversation as much as we have, and we hope you have an awesome week, and we'll see you again next time. Bye.
Bye.